In this video, I'm looking at the Lord of the Rings living card game. Hello AOS fans, Robin here. Yes, today I'm talking about the Lord of the Rings living card game. Now that's living, not live-in. Depends which part of the world you come from, but it doesn't move in or anything like that. It doesn't sort of take up a bedroom. But it might do because there's a lot of content available for this game. So what is the Lord of the Rings living card game? Well, it's been around for quite a long time now. I think it's roughly 10 years old. It's by Fantasy Flight Games. It's very similar. It was a forerunner, I guess, to Marvel Champions. And they do various other living card games over the years. But the Lord of the Rings one has been around for a long time. And obviously, it's based in Tolkien's world, which is why I'm so excited about it. I did actually have a set back in the day, which I never really, my children were quite small, I never really got around to playing it. And I got all excited again when they released this new revised core set. And so I bought it to make videos with, hopefully. Yeah, so I bought it. And so I want to just have a little overview in this video of how you play the game and what you can get for it and all that kind of stuff. It's quite a complicated game. I'm not going to go through all of the rules and everything now because there's quite a few moving parts in this game. But I'm just going to give you a little flavour and overview so you can kind of get an impression of whether you might like it. And then maybe Pete and I, or maybe just me, will record some games and we'll see what you think and see what we think. I've been playing it with my son. I've been really enjoying it. He's been enjoying it, which has been great. And it is deeply, beautifully evocative of the Lord of the Rings universe and Tolkien's work. And that's one of the things I love about it. It is really nice. There are new characters and things and new concepts introduced from into Middle-earth by the designers, but it is also very faithful to Tolkien's work. Now, I will just say, before I go on, this game's been around for a long time, so there's loads of really great content makers out there. And we're just a small drop in the ocean in comparison. So a couple of people I want to give a shout out to have been really helpful. I've been looking on Facebook. There's a really great Facebook group for the game, which is really friendly, full of lots of lovely people. So there are loads of great content makers already for this game. I'm going to put some links in the description below so you can find them. I might have missed some and then go back and add them in. So, but three I really want to highlight. There is Visions of the Palantir, which is run by a young guy from somewhere out of the Benelux countries, I think. He is just really great, really knowledgeable, lots of stuff on there. So that's Visions of the Palantir. There's a podcast called, and I think they've got a blog as well, called, definitely got a Facebook page, called Cardboard of the Rings, which I think is just a brilliant name, and I'm really disappointed I didn't think of that myself. And there's another one called Card Talk. But I'll put the links in below. But there's lots of great content out there. There's people who've designed their own whole eras, like the First Age era, a whole fan-made load of content. There's a brilliant, which I haven't used yet, but it's apparently a brilliant online version of this game. Great. There's online deck builders, a bit like, for those of you who follow us for Underworld's content, a bit like Underworld's DB. And I'll put all the links in the description below. But like I say, this game's been going for a while. It's got a really loyal, strong, helpful fan base. So that is brilliant. That is one thumbs up for it, which has nothing to do with the game. It's just a really friendly, fun game. Community. A really fun, friendly gaming community. What I want to do in this video is give an overview of the game and why I like it. I suppose the reason I like it is because it's the Lord of the Rings. If I was younger, when I was a teenager, I would have loved this game so much. And my dad would have loved it too, and I would have really, really enjoyed playing that with him. Because the artwork's beautifully evocative, the themes are very thematic. The themes in the game are very Tolkien-esque. And it's just a really lovely homage to Tolkien and his work. And so that's a reason enough for me to try and play it. And the game is for 1 to 4 players. Now this is the revised core set. The old core set, that was just for 1 to 2 players. The revised core set is for 1 to 4 players. It has more copies of the cards. This is a deck building game, so you will, as you progress, you will have to do some deck building. And it has loads. Another good thing about this game is it has loads of expansions for it. There's loads of content already available. It's all out, and you can pick and choose if you can find it. Some of it's harder to get than others, but there's just loads of content out there, so you can go. There's hours and hours of gameplay available already for this game. So in a game, you act as adventurers on a quest, a fellowship, if you like, on a quest, and it can be each player will play with 3 heroes that kind of define the way that they're going to play this game. And you can play, so you can play multiple people, but you each control 3 heroes. And then you're basically going to be given a quest, which is given by some cards. A quest deck. So this, for example, is the start one. It's called Passage Through Mirkwood, and the first chapter is called Flies and Spiders. You are travelling through Mirkwood Forest carrying an urgent message from King Thranduil to Lady Galadriel of Lorien. As you move along the dark trail, spiders gather around you. And then you have to go through doing what it says on the cards, and then that sets up the quest. Each quest has its own encounter deck, which is kind of like the things that are going to stop you, the heroes, progressing to, in this case, taking your message from Thranduil down to Lorien. We're going to progress through Mirkwood, and the encounter deck is going to keep throwing things in your way to stop you from doing that, and you are going to try and overcome them in order to successfully deliver your message. What then happens is, as you progress, so in this one you have to search the encounter deck for a forest spider and the old forest road, which is a location I'll come on to in a minute, and then you progress through that. Once you progress through that, you go to the next bit, which is a fork in the road. Unsure of what lies ahead, but spurred by the urgency of your message, you choose a path and proceed. So you have to then choose a path, and then this is quite cool. At the end, you have to randomly choose which of these you pick, and then you get a different ending depending on which one of those you pick. So you're progressing, you're trying to progress through to carry out this mission, and the encounter deck will throw different things in your way to try and stop you. I will just say, before we go any further, it is tricky. This game is hard. It can deal you some horrible blows when you deal out horrible cards from the encounter deck, but even without a bit of bad luck, you do have to really think quite hard how you're going to do it. And there are some combinations which are trickier than others to win with. I will talk about that again at the end of the video. But this is not an easy game. This is compared with Marvel Champions, which I think you can pretty much play any of the heroes straight out of the box and win against Ryno. You can't do that in this game. You have to. There are some things that are just really quite tricky if you've never played the game before. I think maybe when you get more experience, you can make everything in the box work, but when you're first starting out, you can definitely start off with an almost impossible task. The game does get easier the more you play, obviously, and it should be said that if you do invest in some of the other sets that are out there that I was talking about earlier, then you get more cards that can boost your pool of cards. A bit like any deck building game, the more cards you've got, the more you're bound to find some more powerful ones, better combinations to help you overcome the hazards and pitfalls that you can find in Mirkwood. So as I said, each game involves going on a quest. The quest is usually 2 or 3 component pieces, maybe 4. The ones I've seen so far, I think have all been 3. And you have to progress through each one. Each section of the quest has a little number on it, which is how much exploration you need to do before you can progress through it. And your heroes will try and progress that quest, and the pitfalls will try and stop you from doing that. And then once you've got the number of tokens on each quest, you can then proceed to the next part. So on every turn, you the heroes, you get some resources with which to play your cards. So you have a hand of cards. You start off with 6 cards, and each turn you take a new card, and you also get 3 new resources, or 1 per hero, new resources. And you use the resources to spend your to play your card. So if you've got a card that's cost 3, you have to have 3 resources. So anything that's like 3, 4, or more is going to use up, a whole turn's worth of, not a whole turn's worth or more of tokens. So this is definitely a resource management game. You've got to think about what you might want to be doing down the line, but you're also trying to boost your abilities and characters that you've got in your backfield to try and help you on your quests. It's not like Marvel Champions. In Marvel Champions, the card values, the cards that are in your hand, enable you to pay for other cards. So there's a slightly different mechanic there. So the card in your hand don't change that much. But you have some cards that you at the beginning you just won't be able to play, or you just don't need to play them. They just sit there until it's time to play. You can't sort of cash them in like you can in Marvel Champions. So what sort of cards might you play? Well, there are roughly 3 types. There's events, there's attachments, and there's allies. Allies are really good. Allies put new characters into your deck. So you start off with 3 heroes, and that might be, let's just for example, you might have Legolas, Eowyn, Glowin. They're all from all over. There's one. Beravor is a new character that they've invented for the game. But there's all various characters. There's 3 heroes that you have, and you start off with those 3, and you want to hope that they don't die throughout because they're your resource generation and they're much more powerful. But then you can play other allies, and these might be like named characters like we know and love, like Faramir, or they might just be a sort of generic elf scout, and they tend to be less value and less good. But you need to get those out because they can help you explore, and then they can help you defend things later on in the game too. So you need some allies out. Can't get very far without the allies. You have attachments, which can do really useful things like maybe give you a shield to help you better defend damage, or they might allow you to be better at exploring, that kind of thing. So there's different attachments, and you can attach those generally to heroes and sometimes to allies as well. And then there are events, certain things that can happen. Events tend to be a bit like reactions in Warhammer Underworld, so something happens in the game, you can play an event to prevent something else from happening, but there are some that you can play at the beginning of the game. So the first thing you do is you play out these, choose what you want to play that turn, but maybe keeping some resources back if you have got an event that you think you're going to interrupt with later. But events might be something sort of like a meeting or something that then you bring your threat level down. And the threat level is really important in the game. I'm not going to dwell on it too much, but the more threat that is generated, the worse the things that come and attack you are. So you kind of try to keep that low. So there are some cards you can just play it out, bring it down, cause the cauldron to bubble a little less vigorously. And so once everybody has chosen to play, so you go around and you can all kind of play in any order. You can discuss it as much as you like, what you want to play, what you think would be good, what will work together. Once that's happened, you then have to commit to the quest. So you commit characters to the quest, and this is where the crux of the game is, because you have to progress the quest in order to complete the quest. But you've got a limited number of heroes and characters. If you haven't played very many allies, you've just got the 3, committing somebody to the quest exhausts them. Okay, so it's classic Magic the Gathering, tapping the card, turning it on its side. But once they're exhausted, you can't use them again unless you can find a way of unexhausting them, reinvigorating them. And you then also will need to be able to defend against attacks, and you might also want to attack back. So suddenly you've got a real resource scarcity if you've only got 3 heroes on the table, and that's why you need your allies. Allies often end up, so far in my beginner games at least, often end up just soaking up attacks, dying. But at least there you haven't taken any additional damage, because any damage taken that's not defended, if you can't defend, it just goes straight on your heroes, and some nasty effects can make it even worse if it's an undefended attack. Again, I'm not going to delve into the details, but you kind of need to have some defenders. That's really what I'm saying there. Once the heroes get reduced to 0 hit points, and they have a range between 3 and about 5, so they don't have a lot, once they're dead, and there are very few ways to bring them back, and then it gets really hard because then you've only got 2 resources to play, so you can play less cards. So I don't think I've ever played a game where I've survived and had a hero, where the hero's died and I've gone on to win the game. Once a hero goes, you're really fighting an uphill battle. So you have to commit these fighters to the quest, and you look at what is available. It's called the staging area, and that's kind of like the things that are in the forest that you're going to come up against, and you can maybe avoid them because you have this threat level thing. So if things are high level of threat, they won't come and fight you. So you can avoid them. So you're kind of skulking around in the shadows. So it's all beautifully thematic. But some things will just come and attack you because they can hear you or whatever. However you want to put it thematically, they will come and attack you. So you need to balance being attacked against progressing the quest. So you can see what's in the staging area, and you can see how difficult it is going to be to progress the quest, or how easy it is. And so you can balance that and go, well, I need to do this fighter is particularly good at exploring, I'm going to use them. But the problem is, before you do that, for each player, you're going to turn over a card for the encounter that you can't see, which is going to add to the difficulty of questing. And so you have to allow for that in whatever you do, because if you don't manage to successfully quest, then the threat level goes up. So you're putting heat under that cauldron. It's going to make things more difficult for you. So not only do you not progress the quest at all, it also makes things a bit harder for you. So there's a double whammy there if you don't commit enough. But of course, if you commit too much, in the next stage of things, it's going to get rather dicey again. So let's have a little look at what sort of things you get in the encounter deck. So these are revealed when you quest. You can't see them. There will be some in the staging area, as I said, but you get new ones. And there's various things. You get some fighters, so you get something like these Dol Guldur orcs, or maybe the King Spider, and they various things. And some of them have when revealed effects. Like when revealed, each player must choose and exhaust one character they control. And that's a bit of a nightmare, because if you've kept somebody back for defence, when this card is revealed, poof, it's gone. That's your defender done. Or when you reveal first player, there's a first player mechanic, chooses one character currently committed to a quest, deal 2 damage to that character. Again, that's huge, because some of the characters only have 3 damage, so that's like 2/3 of them nearly dead. So there are some horrible when revealed effects in there. As well as monsters or locations in the encounter deck, there's also treacheries. this beautiful Eye of Sauron type card here, a Palantir. When revealed, deal 1 damage to each exhausted character. So basically at the point at which everybody is going on this quest, you've got this horrible, we see you, and we attack, use bats or something to come and hurt you, and then under the shadow until the end of the phase, raise the total amount of exploration that you do by X. So if X is the number of players in the game, so basically it makes it even harder for guys to quest. That kind of thing can really stuff you up as well, because you're thinking, right, okay, we've just got enough to do what we need here, and then this card comes up, like, no we haven't. The amount of times you think you're there and you're not in this game is untrue. There's also some locations. These locations tend to be obviously less violent than orcs, but so there's an enchanted stream here and the mountains of Mirkwood, and I'll come on to what you do with locations in a minute. They make the quest more tricky. It's given by the crowns at the top, so that each card you reveal, fighter or has a number of crowns at the beginning, and that's the value you compare against from your heroes, what they contribute to the quest. Also, you have to travel places. Now, after you've done the reveal step that I was just talking about, you then can choose a location that you revealed to travel to. But that actually then, so you can see that the Mountains of Mirkwood has a value of 3 in the bottom corner, so ignore the crowns now, there's a value of 3 in the bottom corner. You have to, you almost add that to the value of things you need to quest against. You have to get through the 3, so you have to essentially have to get through the Mountains of Mirkwood in order to progress your quest, and once you've got rid of that card, then you can carry on putting quest tokens onto the quest. And it's really tricky, it's all about balancing, so you don't have to travel to a location, but if you don't travel to a location, if you don't basically traverse that location, then what's out in the staging area stays big, which means it's harder to quest anyway, so you kind of need to bring it down. But once you've travelled to it, you then have to remove the number of quest tokens on it, or add the number of quest tokens equal to its value, so the Mountains of Mirkwood is 3, and if you don't do that, and once you've done that, you can then add value to the quest. See, it's quite complicated. It makes sense. Basically, you have to travel through the mountains in order to continue on your path. Thematically, that's where it is. Let's not get bogged down in the mechanics. Basically, you have to travel through the mountains in order to get from A to B. That's pretty much how it works. So after you've travelled somewhere and you've done anything from that, then comes the encounter phase. And as I've talked about, if your threat is a certain level, monsters come and attack you. You can choose to attack a monster if strategically that's the best thing for you to do. And when things attack, they come down, and unfortunately you don't get to do anything until they have attacked. So they'll attack. If you've got an ally or a hero to defend it with, each character has a shield value, so sometimes you can just soak up all the damage without taking any damage. Then that's great. But it might die because it doesn't. You can soak up the damage. So if it's like 4 damage and one of the little minions has got 1 shield, you can just basically, he just dies. You don't have to worry about that additional damage unless they've got cards that, unless they've got keywords that mean that you do have to worry about the additional damage. But then so they attack, and then you get the opportunity to attack back. Any hero, any character, hero or ally that defends gets to basically take it out of this turn for the rest of the turn, unless you can find a way of exhausting. You have to exhaust in order to defend. But then after you've done that, you can attack back, and again, each character has an axes value, which is it's kind of strength in combat, and you compare that against the shields, and hopefully you can take out the card in one shot. If not, you add damage counters to it, and it will still be there next round, and it may be that's still there next turn, and then another thing will come down and attack you again. That's when things start to get tricky. You start to get a pile up of monsters. You need to defend, but you also need to attack, and you need to keep the quest moving. Oh my god! Yes, so it does get pretty stressful in the height of a battle. And I will say there's quite a lot of interactions and bookkeeping to do. So if you're not keen on that sort of thing, this game probably isn't for you. There's quite a lot of things to keep track of. It is fairly intuitive, but also in the heat of battle and the excitement of drawing cards and needing to work out what totals you need where, sometimes you can forget. For example, when you're doing combat, something I missed it, so I forgot to tell you. When you do combat, you not only do you have to contend with the sort of strength of the monster you're fighting, you also deal an encounter card face down on it. You can't see it. Then you choose to defend it. Then you turn it over, and some cards, not all the cards, some cards have a shadow effect on them, which make the attack even worse normally, and some don't, in which case you can yes, and you just chuck it in the discard pile. But some do, and they make it even worse. So that's just another thing to contend with to make it even trickier. But I quite often, or have done, suddenly realise partway through the next turn I completely forgot to deal shadow cards. Oops. And that kind of happens, I think, especially when you're first learning. And there's people have different views on how important or heinous that is. I mean, basically, if you've had a good time, it doesn't really matter whether you don't ever deal with them, does it? But strictly speaking, you have to deal shadow cards, and that can make your life worse. So this game's all about balance, and if you get the balance wrong, you can very quickly find yourself overwhelmed, and you can actually go from being in quite a strong position to being quite a weak position, even if you make just a slight miscalculation, which is a bit of a nightmare. I do really enjoy it. I actually quite like the difficulty. It does mean you get plenty of value out of your toys, if you like, because you have to work out and how am I going to defeat this? What's my best approach to defeat this? And you might have to try several different iterations before you get there, which is quite nice, I think. I think if you're a beginner, then you would probably find this game quite hard. If you're not really used to this type of game, I think you would probably think, what have I let myself in for? As I said, each step is quite intuitive, but there are quite a lot of different little moving parts, which is quite complex. And that's even without the game difficulty itself, which can be brutal. The first adventure isn't too bad. The second one is pretty nasty, and the third one in the box is awful, frankly. Really hard. I will just say, I've just picked up the box. I will just say the rules aren't too bad. You've got a little how to play book, which actually is really good. It takes you through each stage. It's not too thick. It's 36 pages. It takes you through each stage really nicely. And I refer to that a lot when I first started. And then this page is the rules reference book, which is also really great. It has keywords all in alphabetical order. You can find what you want really easily. And then it has the exact layout of when you can do what in the game at the back for when you get a bit more advanced and you want to check different things you can do. And I have to say, these are really well written rule books. But that doesn't stop the game itself being really difficult, not just to learn how to play. It's not that difficult to learn how to play, it's really difficult to master, which I guess is a mark of a good game. So one thing I haven't touched on at all is the deck building aspects of this game, and I haven't done that very much myself at the moment. But it has another curious point for beginners for this box. So each of the heroes you choose, so that come from a different sphere of influence. There are 4 sphere of influences in the game, and in the core set you get 3 heroes that belong to each sphere of influence. So there's leadership, law, spirit, and tactics. So for example, Eowyn is a spirit hero. Gimli is leadership. It's given by the icons in the bottom right corner and their colour. So the leadership is red and spirit is blue. You've got green ones, which is law, like Denethor and Glorfindel are law characters. And then finally you've got leadership, and the man himself, Aragorn, is a leadership character. So I didn't touch at all upon the deck building aspect of the game. The box comes with 4 pre-generated decks, 1 for each sphere of influence. But actually, if you're playing solo in particular, you're just playing one of those spheres of influence, it's really hard to win with some of the leadership, I think. It probably isn't impossible, but I started, I fancy playing leadership. It describes it as being the one that's a bit more fighty. I thought, well, I'll do that, that'll be good. But it's really bad at exploring, so you just get overwhelmed really quickly. Really bad at questing. So I just got defeated, and I played it a few times. I thought, I'm never gonna defeat it doing this. And then in the back of the rules book, it tells you about a couple of different what they call dual sphere decks, where you choose heroes from 2 spheres and play them. And actually, that worked much better, and I won. I think I used leadership and spirit. Spirit is quite good at doing that questing. So I think quite often, somewhere in your game, you need some spirit heroes. But it has a knock-on effect, again, which makes the bookkeeping and thought process quite tricky. You can only, if you're playing a mono-sphere deck, then it's fine. Any resources can be paid to play any card. If you're playing a dual-sphere deck, you can only use the resources that come from the same sphere. So if you want to play a spirit card, you have to use your resources of the spirit heroes. Now, bearing in mind you've only got 3 heroes, it's basically going to break down to 2 and 1. I mean, I guess you could do 1, 1, and 1. I don't know enough about the game to know how well or badly that would work. But you've got 2 or 1, so however you make the rest of your card, you're roughly going to want a 2/3, 1/3 split, and you might want to think about how many of the powerful cards you've got. The powerful cards cost more, but if you're only generating 1 resource per turn, you're probably not going to want too many 5 cards or even too many 4 cards. You have got the ally Gandalf, who's possibly the best card in the starter set, and he's any colour, so any colour resources can be used for him. But Gandalf is awesome, but he's worth 5. There are other cards that are worth 5, and you have to think about if you're only generating 2 per turn, whether you're going to want to play those 5 cards. And that again has a you have to think about that when you're building decks. It does give you a couple of good examples of some decks to build in the starter book I have used. I haven't actually built my own deck yet. Starting to think about it. And I've been playing with my son. He's been playing Leadership with Aragorn and Theodred, really enjoying that. And I've been playing Spirit, Eowyn, and a couple of other characters. That's a really good foil for one another. They seem to work really well. I've been trying to work on one that I can back up his Leadership deck, which is dual aspect. We haven't actually played it yet. I built the deck, we haven't played it yet. So I built one with Law and Spirit to see whether we can make it a bit better, because there are certain weaknesses. Once you start to play, you see the weaknesses in the deck and you start thinking, well, okay, I need a bit of backup here. There's loads of resources. As I mentioned, there was a deck builder. There's loads of resources there for decks, and you could pick and choose what sets you own and things like that to get decks back to use without thinking about it. If you're not that interested in deck building, quite like the puzzle. Obviously, it's quite time consuming. And that, more or less, in quite a long nutshell, is it. I've really enjoyed this game. I'm literally at the tip of the iceberg. I hope you've enjoyed this content, if you've watched it. If you're completely new to the game, like I say, there's loads of other really great content out there. Go and check that out, because I'm new to the game too. If you want to see some games on Ages of Sigmar, do let us know. I'm happy to try and play them. I'm a little bit pressed for time, but I really enjoy this game, and I'm trying to lure Pete in. You can get, I should have said this right at the beginning, you can get complete saga expansions where you can basically play through the story of The Hobbit or play through the story of The Lord of the Rings. I'd love to do that with Pete. It's a whole campaign mode. Haven't mentioned campaign mode in here. You can play each game has a campaign mode. You get cycles of games and they have campaign modes, but you can play a campaign of the whole Hobbit or Lord of the Rings. I would love to do that, and maybe we will. Again, it's one of these things. I have all these amazing ideas, but then I realise that I've got 3 kids and a life and all that kind of stuff. It doesn't happen. So there you go. So I hope you enjoyed that. If this is your first time on the channel, we've got loads of Lord of the Rings stuff coming. We're playing some Middle-earth strategy battle game, and hopefully we're going to play some Journeys in Middle-earth. But yeah, do like and subscribe if you're just joining us for the first time. Ring the bell so you get notifications. Let me know how long you've been playing this game. If you've been playing it for a long time, let me know how many things I got wrong in my description. Probably loads. But hopefully you've enjoyed the content. Hopefully, at the very least, you enjoy how much I wave my hands around. Yeah, so there you go. That is it. That is my overview of the Lord of the Rings collectible card game. I think it's really great. It really scratches that Tolkien itch, which I should probably get some ointment for. But yeah, until next time, I'll see you soon.